Welcome to the Regarding 365 Debate, where we debated, turn it all on in Office 365, yes or no. We recorded this live at Microsoft Ignite with a live audience, and in fact Daniel Glenn and Darryl Webster got around the audience to ask their opinions before we got into the debate. So let's have a listen to some of those opinions before we hear the panelists get right into it. This was a great session, really well rated, and plenty of interaction from the audience later. Let's get into it.
Hello everyone, this is Daniel. We're about to start the great Regarding 365 debate about whether you should turn everything on in Office 365. I'm here with Wendy. Wendy, should you turn everything on in Office 365 for all your users?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
Because I work with the operations folks and we have no idea how in the world we would support it if everything was on and everybody expected it to all work.
Breaking news, Wendy is one of the smartest people in this room. Thank you for joining us, Wendy.
Thank you.
Alright, so my name's Darryl and you are...
Frederick.
Hey Frederick. So this session is all about whether or not to turn on all the features in Office 365. Do you have an opinion about that?
I do. It's actually a two-part answer.
Okay.
I think it's okay to turn everything on, but only after you have all your governance set up.
Right.
Because the problem that we ran into is that we turned everything on, we let people create their own groups and everything.
Yeah.
And then all the next thing we knew is they were out of control, and there was no naming conventions or anything else. So that's our experience. But,
right.
I think we should enable the users, but you have to do it in a controlled fashion.
Right. So we're going to get a it depends answer, aren't we?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make sure that you've done all your homework before you do it.
Yeah. And the tricky part here is that because there's so much new stuff coming out, how do you go in and explore it beforehand? Are you
Right.
making use of some of the early release,
We are
targeted
not.
release?
We're an insurance company, so we are, by our very nature, very conservative.
Right. So but like as a consideration of using targeted release, a small group of people that might.
We haven't really. No, we haven't done it, but we probably should.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for your opinion, mate.
No problem.
All right. Hi, we are here with Owen, and my simple question is, should you turn everything on in Office 365 all at once for your users?
Yes, you should turn everything on all at once for your users. And the reason is that now there's enough management capabilities that you can slide in enough governance and enough protection. You're not going to do permanent damage to your tenant. You're not even going to do damage to your tenant. It's just going to be a little noisy until you clean it up, but your users will get used to it. You don't want your users getting used to a half-baked, a half-raw cookie. You want the cookie, the full cookie, not just the flour and eggs.
Okay, breaking news, we're baking. Also,
Yeah,
another
we're baking.
breaking news is I love you, Owen, but you're completely wrong. So, thanks for joining.
You better have a great day.
I'm on Twitter.
Oh, you're on Twitter? Mm-hmm. What's your handle?
Esma Clements.
Esma Clements, okay. This is Esma Clements, and she's been following Regarding 365 for a while.
Yeah.
And what do you do,
A
Susan?
year or so. I'm a software trainer for a corporation, so I drive end-user adoption for O365.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's definitely an important space, and I like to think of it as when IT pros do all the hard work, who's going to help them make sure that users use it?
So I'm trying to connect to the business and so drive collaboration across the company.
All right. Do you have any tips that you could share with people?
Be willing to try all the tools and see how they work together for your work stream.
Exactly. Like I know there's that conversation of what to use when, but I think just try it out, get comfortable with what suits you, not get confused with this matrix of choices.
No, just figure out what works for you and, and use it.
Yeah, well, it's lovely to meet you, Susan.
Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right, we're still getting prepped for the debate. I'm here with Kristen and Pat. I have a simple question for you. Should you turn on everything in Office 365?
No,
No, why? Why not?
because we have users who need to be trained, and we get yelled at when we turn things on and we haven't provided proper training.
Proper training. I think that is a fantastic reason, and I've added you to my one of the smartest people in this room list. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, so I'm Daryl and you're
Cynthia.
Cynthia. So we're at a debate about whether to turn Office 365 features all on or not. So your background?
So I'm a change manager at a large financial services company.
Okay.
So as a change manager, I am all for turning it on and letting people opt in.
Yeah.
But as an employee of a financial services company, I can't say that.
No, of course not.
No. So we have to be a little bit more selective about what we turn on.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So the pro side of it is what are the pros to turning it all on?
I think there are people who want to explore, and I want to learn from them. So the early adopters, I want them to try things out and tell me what works and doesn't work, or how to do things best.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the flip side of what we can turn on.
Yeah. So the compliance side is a struggle. You've got to have everything under control and not out of
Very managed.
Yeah, secure, etc. Great. Well, thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
And now the debate. Is have a conversation about how we use things. And it might feel a bit risky. Might feel, that you're out of your comfort zone by doing that. But we should be doing that so that we can get to what is the answer for us rather than best practice, whatever that means. Anyway, so turn it all on in Office 365. This is a hot topic. We actually wanted to debate it a while ago. We do online debates as well. And we thought, no, it would be great to do it with a group of people and make it really interactive. So we'll get to I'll get to the format a bit later. But first of all, some introductions. So you know the moot, you know the topic. Turn it all on in Office 365. Some of you have already shared your opinions. And we have two teams. The affirmative team. I'll get you to introduce yourself, starting from the outside in. Steve.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Stephen Collier. I'm a solution architect from the UK from a company called CPS and a Office 365 MVP. And I'm part of Team Yes.
Right.
I'm Liz Sundit, and I am new to Microsoft as a Premier Field Engineer. I was an MVP for the last 2 years.
So before I introduce myself, could those that are agreeing with this team, so switch everything on, sit on that side of the room?
You're not convinced yet. That's our job. Wrong order.
No,
Okay.
people have already agreed with this. Hi, my name is Alistair Pugin. I am from South Africa, not Kiwi land or Australia, and I'm...
Keep it going, guys.
Okay.
Daniel. Oh, all right. So the negative team.
Negative? I don't like that title slide. No. Hi, I'm Daniel Glenn. I am a practice lead for a company called InfoWorks, a complete business solutions provider in Tennessee.
I'm Sue Hanley, and I'm an information architect and business analyst, and I'm on team, it's complicated.
Yes. Some agreeers there.
I'm Lawrence Strand. I'm not from South Africa. And I'm a consultant. And I'm from team It Depends.
You're already changing this up. Trying to play it safe. All right, so I want to just really get quickly to the action, to the discussion. But I want to explain a few rules first of all. As panelists, they're going to have 3 minutes each to talk about the yes or the no as part of this argument. We'll alternate between teams. And then, I'm sorry about all the pop-ups there. And then when all the panelists have spoken, you get to join in. It's free for all. It's rebuttal time. So the floor is open as well. There will be some rebuttal, and guys, please give them some time too. Right? We'll keep it moving.
Rebuttal?
But if you do have an opinion, and some of you have already given it, step up to the mic, keep it brief, and let's keep this discussion going for as long as we can. So we will start off with the affirmative team, and we'll start coming from the outside in with Steve again.
Cool, thank you. Affirmative. Oh, I only want to turn on Teams. I don't want to turn on anything else other than Teams. Well, Teams and the things that Teams needs. Because obviously, Teams, you need Exchange turned on, and SharePoint, and OneDrive. Oh, I'll need Stream for the video recording. I'll probably want that Planner tab to work. I'll probably want a Power App attached into it. Oh, hang on a minute, I pretty much need everything. And that's kind of the point. Office 365 is a suite. It's not really individual products. It kind of was at the start. It kind of was Exchange and SharePoint. But now that's really just been blended together. You know, when you've chosen Office 365, it's like you went out and you just bought a thoroughbred racehorse. You wouldn't start cutting the legs off it as soon as you get it and then still expect to win the race. So you've really got to go for it. Turn everything on.
All right, so, and Daniel. I know. No, rebuttal is later. From the outside in.
From this side.
Oh, okay, just get on with it.
I know who he is. So I've been working with Office 365 since before it was since a time of BPOS. Does anybody here remember that? Ever work with that?
Oh wow,
more than hands are normal. So I firmly, I used to be a Microsoft partner, and I was very much of the opinion, turn it on, just turn it on. And that was because I actually hadn't been an end user. So I hadn't actually experienced what turn it all on meant as an end user. I didn't actually have the experience to see what they went through, to see the frustrations they went through when they would just find stuff in all kinds of random places. So I actually, while I still in one camp inside of my brain, because I have multiple personalities, still do believe in my heart and my mind that, you know, it should all be on. I think it's actually very important to have governance. So even if organisations have started, thank you, I like this already. If organisations have already started to use all of Office 365, great. Don't stop using it, but kind of claw it back a little bit, get a governance framework in place, get a plan, and then kind of go back out there. If they're new to Office 365, it's a really opportune time to say, okay, what do we want to do? Yes, Teams is the app hub, it's the Meta OS, it's everything in one. But not everybody needs everything, because Teams doesn't necessarily need Power Apps. Teams doesn't necessarily need Flow. Not everybody necessarily needs Teams straight away as well. So that's the thing, is I think we need to have a plan in place, think about what you're doing, what business challenges you're trying to address, and figure out that governance, what all the different controls you're going to have, and then let people have a kind of containerized free-for-all.
Very, very strong arguments there. So we have, I'm not... So far, we've got a good flow going here. Let's go to Liz and hear what she's got to say.
Hello. So it has been said that experimentation is kind of the lifeblood for innovation. And that is very, very true for me as well, in terms of my own exposure, my own learning to technology, is that I have to have all the availability of the things that I want to use to be able to create solutions. I don't want to be halfway down a path of a solution and then fall into some type of a trap that I can't complete the solution based on the fact that I don't have access, or I don't have a certain tool that is available that, you know, people are blogging about or people are writing about, but guess what? My organization doesn't allow me to be able to create those types of ideas and solutions within my suite. So for me, that was a huge aspect that I would say turn it all on and innovate with it, experiment with it, because you never know where your next idea is coming from. 3M has a product called Post-it notes. I'm sure we've all heard of Post-it notes, used Post-it notes. I actually carry them with me. That was based on a mistake. It was based on a mistake of the glue not being exactly sticky enough. But guess what? It serves a purpose, and it all came out of an innovation. And I think about what we can do within Office 365 and create kind of our next sticky note.
Thank you, Liz. Let's go to Sue.
So I don't learn necessarily the same way that you learn, Liz, and I've found that most of my users are clueless. They get thrown a bunch of tools and they have no clue what to do with them. So the reason I said I think it's complicated, because if we don't have training available for our users to tell them what to do or how to solve their business use cases with these tools we just put in front of them, they're going to be overwhelmed. First of all, they think a waffle is something you eat. So telling them, oh, it's in the waffle, it is not also going to be very helpful. So we have to remember that we live and breathe technology every single day. Regular people do not. They do not live the same way that we do, and they may want to learn a little bit more about how a particular technology can solve their business problem before you throw it in their face. So I'm a big fan of making sure that before we turn everything on, we've got the training available for all of our end users so that they know what to do with it and how to take these wonderful services, whether it's 1, 10, 50, or 100, and do something with it so that they're comfortable on day one that they're going to be able to get their job done.
Thank you, Sue. Al.
So firstly, Lorian, thanks for agreeing with us that it's okay to turn everything on as long as you have governance. We appreciate you doing that. Secondly, Sue, just on your point, I agree with you holistically. But you have to look at the demographics. So my 82-year-old mother, who does not understand how computers work, she wouldn't clean my room because there was a computer in it 20 years ago. 25 years ago. But she will text me on Facebook Messenger and comment on Facebook posts. Like when I posted something about cortisone, there's 8 tablets, she thought I was dying. The thing is, right, yes, enterprise social, there's a running joke about enterprise social, user adoption being one retirement at a time. All right, because of the technology gap, right? And we definitely live in it. So coming back to what Lorian was saying, if we close the gates, thanks for agreeing with us, we really appreciate it. There's enough tooling inside of the Microsoft 365 stack to close the gates behind. Are you worried about people sharing externally? Use Azure Information Protection or the new Security and Compliance Center that's coming. The other thing that, no, you don't get to speak yet, Dan. What Sue was saying, 100% right, you need training. You definitely need training. But if you have to go look at the demographic and the people that's coming into organizations, you know, the old term, I don't know if there's any millennials in the room, but the term of 25% of your workforce every year is now millennial. And they are born with a silver iPhone in their hand or a silver spoon in their mouth. So if you give them a reason to use the tech, nobody trained you on Facebook, nobody trained you on Twitter, nobody trained you on Instagram, and nobody definitely trained you on Snapchat. But yet, everyone uses the tools. And these tools are not that much different from the tools that we use every day to do everyday things.
Do you have a timer going there?
On Helm, you have to have a timer.
Yep, go ahead.
Thanks for making our point. Appreciate that, Alistair. You just said, don't roll everything out all at once. Take your time and make it, make your time. Take your time to make sure that you have all of the structure in place. So I appreciate you doing that because the question is, are you operational ready? Are you able to support all of the requests that are going to come at you all at once when you turn everything on? Yes, Teams is great. Do you need all of those other things in Teams to use Teams? Absolutely not. There are multiple tools in Office 365 to do everything. You want to create a form, but Forms is not turned on? Use SharePoint. There's tons of there's a lot of examples of the same thing. Operational readiness is so important to getting the ROI out of your initiatives. And if you're not ready for all of those support requests, that first speed bump that a user runs into with that tool, and they don't get an answer, an easy answer, it is going to prove to them that you were not ready. As IT pros, as an organization, you were not ready and not prepared to roll out. Their confidence in you as an organization goes down. So you got to get your support people trained. You've got to get really a tiered method approach for handling all the support requests. This is having a resource community, a place for people to learn on their own, people to talk to on that tool in their department or in their user community. And then training your support staff to handle those requests in an efficient manner, not okay, you open a ticket, I've asked you the same questions 3 times, I've got to go ask somebody else. You need to do all of that. And can your organization actually handle all of that all at once? No, it cannot. There's not an organization in the world that can turn it all on and be ready to support the organization.
I was about to say 20 seconds, but well done.
How does he get an extra 20 seconds?
So, look, we've had some probably thought-provoking things that have been said, and these guys, I'm sure, want to continue to rebut. But we also want to invite you to step up, and if you've got a brief opinion or something that you'd like to share as a response to that, do ask that you keep it brief so we can keep it moving, because we've got 30 whole minutes of being able to have this discussion as a whole room.
Daryl?
Let's do it.
Also, if you hear a point that you like, share it on Twitter and hashtag it RE, regarding RE365. We'd love to see that conversation going during this and after this this session.
So, yeah, just share the mic around. That's right. So we'll start it with this gentleman here.
I'm Brian with Serious Computer Solutions. I think what Susan Hanley said is probably the most smartful thing up there, because I do CIEs for customers. And I think all of us in the room, we're all technology. We are immersed in it, and we take that for granted. And if we remove ourselves from that, I've seen literally marketing HR not even know they're navigating around Windows 10 when they have Windows 10, but then when they sit down, like, now how do I do that again? So if they're challenged on Windows 10, they're challenged on SharePoint, and they're frustrated with a lot. To me, most organizations, their training departments are poor, right? Their LMS is aging, right? So to me, you've got to address the change, how you manage change, the training, adoption, and then everything else will come that you can turn it on.
And I agree with that, and I would say that that's one of the missing aspects that's in many businesses, is you're dead on about training, resources not being up to date, not being engaged enough with what the users are doing, and then it costs a lot of money to constantly change that as the technology changes as well. So you have to have somebody in your organization that can deal with change management, deal with the training side, and make sure that the adoption gets turned on that way.
So you're saying you agree with me on that side?
Correct. That's exactly what you said. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liz. Thank you. Thanks, Liz. I appreciate your work. And I think it's a really good point that you've raised, is we can't expect people to be, to actually understand technology. Sorry, I'm not jumping into a rebuttal here, but people understand, marketers know how to use Facebook and Twitter and all these kind of tools, but yeah, they don't know how to use Windows. We can't also assume that millennials who have been given a $1,200 iPhone know actually how to use it. Instagram has got how many buttons? 4? Cool. A monkey could probably figure that out. So yeah, I completely agree with that point. So this was not a rebuttal, but disguised as one.
All right. But okay, so we'll pass it over to this gentleman over here and keep it moving.
So question number 1 is, how many of you have your own IT budget that's not given to you by the business? Exactly.
Oh, one. We got one, but
One? Do you own the company, sir? All right, so that's point A when you're talking about adoption and you're talking about rolling out and about pushing into the company. Company does not have appetite for that which it does not understand. And they're not going to budget it. Okay, so that's point 1. And that drives me then to point 2 on the training side. By the time you had all your green lights for your training, technology will have completely changed. You'll never launch. You will never launch. So, to those points, I would like to recommend that when we talk about turning it all on, that I'm an IT senior engineer, it's my job to turn it on and to push company forward. We're ready to do that, but we have those 2 blockers. Company has no appetite to do it, we get our money from the company. And section 2, training is a problem, but by the time you have all green lights on your training materials, you have to start over.
Well, I think my comment to that, especially for the training, is that perfection is the enemy of getting it done. And so we're not and Sue, I'm going to cede to you an additional time in this discussion of my comment here. So if you are working toward creating an instructional manual in Office 365, you're doing it wrong. Utilize what Microsoft has, connect with resource community. I did a session yesterday, Theater 1111. It was look that up. You can see the recording. It's about flow, and it's really about just a starting point of getting a place where you can have some learning and then continue to grow, but having that in place. But Sue, I know you had one comment.
I was just
Can
going
I
to,
make Can I make one extra comment on that one point? If those materials were available, why are we here?
They are available.
I know, but they're not available. I mean, we're all here to learn about we're all here to learn about Microsoft products, right? Are they really available?
They're not necessarily the easiest to find.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of them are available, but I think your point about training is important, but I'm still right. And the reason is because you're waiting for it to be completely done. You'll never be done creating training, and you shouldn't, because Microsoft has a lot of great training resources. Our job before we turn it on is to get people comfortable on day one. I often use it when I talk about this. I have a picture of my now 34-year-old when he was 2 years old with his Big Bird backpack. It didn't even have anything in it. That's all he needed to go to nursery school. When I sent him off to college, he needed an awful lot more, and it cost me a lot more money. But on day one, it was just that enough to make him comfortable that he could do his job right on that day. And then all the other training, honestly, the training services, what's it called, Office 365? Training services, the new training site collection that you can essentially download into your tenant, that's where you can learn how to. What you need to focus on, I think, as an organization, we need to focus on is how should, that's governance, and make me comfortable on day one, that's a 2-minute video. I don't think we need a ton of green light to make that happen.
Okay, so I'll jump in here. We'll hear from the yes side, and we'll also ask the responses be a little shorter. Go ahead, Steve.
Sure. I think I'd love to work in one of these companies where your users loyally say, oh, you turned that off. Okay, I won't do it anymore. They don't do that. If you're not providing a service, they'll go and find someone that's somewhere else. You're just getting in their way. So you turn off Microsoft Forms, they'll all be using SurveyMonkey. And that's going to be infinitely worse for your organization to start having your data spreading around when you already had and bought a service that will do it for you. So yeah, I mean, users' requirements don't change because you haven't provided the service. They have their requirement, and it's your job to meet it. If you've got the service, you've turned it off because you don't want their requirement, what are you going to tell them?
All right, so we'll have one more response from the positive side, and then we'll take this side here.
Oh, that was a terrible one.
Thank you, Daryl, for giving us our 5 minutes that they stole. So yes, exactly what you said, shadow IT is real. You don't enable OneDrive or external file sharing, people are going to Dropbox because it chips on their phone, right? So what do? Yes, training is essential, but I guarantee you the workforce that's coming into your organization now, if you make them ambassadors of change and you get them to embrace technology from day one, part of the induction process will cover what you think you lack in the organization when it comes to training. And don't think that your users are as stupid as you think they are. I think that's also something that we do as IT people. We know so much and we think that they know so little. But I guarantee you, everyone is going home and buying Alexa devices and talking to their switches at home, and they're starting to embrace technology much faster than what baby boomers were doing that needed to read a 347-page white paper on Azure before they'd switch it on. And anyway, when you go to... They had 3 people talk, right?
Yeah, okay.
3.
Just trying to keep it moving so everyone can have a say.
All right, I'll keep quiet now, Mal. You can talk.
All right, thank you. Thanks for waiting so long.
Jackie. Hi, so I am in HR and I do know how to use Windows 10.
Should be a case study.
But I think the challenge that we're having now is that we don't have a huge training budget, and yes, training is so important, but we also have early adopters and we have millennials on our team that, you know, I just don't see anything wrong with them getting their hands dirty. They're not going to break it, right? So if we turn it on, and if they have the time to get in there and try it and work with it, they can help us develop the training that we need to help the lowest common denominator, right, that still needs help. So
Yeah, it's about confidence, building confidence.
Well, actually, I made that point in my opening statement that you have that layered approach, and I totally agree with you. You take have the resource that's the self-service resource that grows with those power users, and they add to it from day one, and then you go to a more and train your support people so they can support that. But that's exactly right.
And we'll go to Melanie now.
Thank you for but it sounds like you are going to wait, and I'm not going to accuse you of waiting for perfectionism. So please, no defensiveness on that. But it sounds like you are going to wait until you are comfortable, until you feel like you're in control, until you feel like you have a firm grip on who's going to use what and how. And the thing is, you cannot possibly understand, for a company like mine of 150,000 people in 70 business units globally, you cannot understand all of their use cases. You cannot, psychically intuit all the different ways that they want to use these tools. And I will tell you, as a person who sits in corporate affairs and has no IT budget whatsoever, and yet is training half the company in Office 365 tools that I learned the day before they demand to be trained on it, the thing is that you get a champion core, you turn people loose, you work with them to learn these tools and create your own videos customized to your own situations, and meanwhile, the people who don't want this stuff are content to live their freaking lives in Outlook until you pull them out and drive them out with a cattle rod. Bring the damn stuff on.
Yes, Melanie. Good job. This is good. I see it sort of nicking now.
Why are you so hostile?
All right. So Lauren. And please, we'll just pause there. Please do. I can see people are flinching. They just want to get up and
Mel, maybe
the mic.
Mel,
do
maybe next time just share
go.
the eyesight between us, because I think Daniel's
Thank you. Mel,
his retinas are burnt out.
Thank you very much.
So I completely get your logic. Absolutely agree with it. And as I said, I used to be a turn it all on kind of guy. Until I met people that lost their jobs because it was their responsibility to look after the organization's security and compliance and risk and those kind of things. So someone's ass is always on the line with this stuff. So sorry, I'm going to spread the eyesight, so I'm not doing the latest point is back. So that's the thing is, we're not saying leave it off. We're just saying don't turn it all on straight away. One of the great things is that we've got granular license controls. We've got granular product controls within Office 365. So we can turn Teams on for some people. We can turn forms on for some people. So you can still contribute to a form. You actually just can't create a form. So that's the thing is we've got to approach it. This is why I love my governance stuff, is because put the framework in place so that the organization's butt is covered, and then start going out there within kind of your little walled garden.
All right, thank you. We'll go this side.
A little tale from the trench. I am working at support, and we get a lot of support from SharePoint 2010. And yes, we get questions like, how do I upload a document? How do I grant access to a document? But also a lot of time we receive questions like, hey, I have found this nice JavaScript. I have put it on my little website. It works well. I would like to improve it. And we are a little lost on how we can help the user on that. My point is, we have some users that need training and that will always need training, whatever the tool we use. And we have other users that are able to go on the internet, go on Google, and go way beyond of even us at IT might think they can do. And I think we have two different populations in the company, and we need to be able to address both populations.
So I agree with you that there are different approaches from a support point of view for different types of organisations or different types of users, what they expect, a different standard. Exactly. What I think generally the trend is, though, for support to become more like assistants. So rather than, the things should all just work. They're in the cloud, they're supported by Microsoft. Only when they're really broken, you raise a ticket to Microsoft. But really, your support function needs to turn into more of a genius bar you can come and get some advice and help from, rather than I'll log a ticket to say I want to make the colour on this blue. Can you show me how to technically do that? And if you can make it into more of a discussion level of support rather than tickets and processes, I think that's more aligned with this cloud generation, on the cloud direction with Microsoft. Otherwise, yeah, you'll get a hammer reading on your help desk with thousands of individual point-specific questions. better to have that sort of engagement lead, which is a different type of support person. It's an engagement person rather than a support engineer. At an organisation I worked at, we had a desk, and they could come and visit this person and have a chat. And that was an incredibly empowering way of doing it.
All right, anything over here from your side of the fence? You agree?
They've lost already. Yeah, we don't have to argue with everybody.
Of course.
Like some people.
Thank you.
I guess I want to address what I consider a real world situation, which was we were in 2010, then we were in 2013, now we're in hybrid, and we're going to 365, right? So turn it all on. We've had this tenant for 3 years, right? Somebody turned it all on 2 years ago. Nobody took governance over it, right? I'm on the application side of things. The other team, the other side of our IT department is IT and security, right? So I can't even get them to turn on groups right now. They turned off groups for me. They won't let me turn on OneDrive. They keep telling me they're gonna come into naming conflicts. So I guess I would like to hear from you guys. Not very many of us are in the position of just turning it on, all on and moving them into 365. I think we have to figure out how to move them forward.
No, I don't have to disagree with that.
You on the nose? Go ahead. Let's just talk. Let's just talk.
Conversation.
Yeah, man, just take a chill pill. I completely, you're absolutely right. The IT departments, a lot of them are afraid of what they don't know. And so therefore their response is to shut it all down. So my wife, for example, worked with me for 5 years as a change manager. We did Office 365 day in, day out. She went to a health insurance company. I've actually got an article on my blog called Life After Office 365. She had to unlearn everything for 3 years, go back to Windows 7, go back to a USB stick, go back to network drives, and she couldn't take content offline. It was hell for her. So she discovered, because she gave me access to her device, that they actually had Office 365, and we found ways to do shadow IT inside. So we stood up a group and started doing things. And it was like a few months later, IT pulled her in and said, how did you do that? Because they legitimately didn't know. And that's part of the issue is IT departments, this is not a yes or no answer. IT departments need to pull their thumb out and say, okay, we don't understand Office 365, but we've got it in some form. Let's figure it out. Not just say, well, until we know it, and we will control what we do. Get some external consultants in. Yes, I say that I'm very biased. But actually get some people who know what they're doing and put all of these things in, and then, yeah, turn it on in a limited control. Or trained and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we have huge data sets. We work with insurance companies, right? We had a breach about a month ago when we turned on Exchange, and they managed to get in through a URL on OA, right? And at that point, they turned everything off on me, right? So I think it's more complicated, and I guess I'd have to stand on this side because of that.
Right, I think what you're saying is that it is a complicated decision, and that the most important thing isn't I actually think we're having the wrong debate. It's not turn it all on or turn it all off.
Yeah,
it's really, it's planning.
Yeah.
It's making sure that you're ready, that you've thought about the governance issues before you turn anything on. And then I would argue, if I could just maybe have a third thing, it's not which service do you turn on, it's which scenario. I think we have to enable business solutions by describing how do I solve this business problem, not am I using this service or turning on this service in Office 365. And I think in your case, I completely agree. I've had this happen so many times in organizations. If there was some planning beforehand, understanding the risks, I think it comes down to governance. Before you turn anything on, then turn it on and just launch it from a scenario perspective. And then you can allow those 1,000 flowers to bloom and create training and have your champions and all that.
The business side, they need this, right?
All right, thank you. We'll take this side, thanks.
So I completely agree with what you just said, because there are many different solutions that are looking for a problem. So it's like, for instance, Teams. Oh, you need to switch to Teams because we're going to get rid of Skype, Skype for Business. Well, there are still, Teams isn't ready, to completely replace Skype. I think anyone who uses Teams or uses Skype or uses both can agree with that. It's almost there. It's getting close. Can you share your desktop in Teams?
Just this week, though.
Oh, this week, yeah, great.
This week. So you can in a meeting.
Yes. But your point was valid. It's valid.
But it's still not a one-to-one, and I agree. Teams, we all understand we have to move to Teams. It's going to happen, but it's we're an insurance company. We deal with clerks who really they just do day in and day out. All they want to do is be able to ask their boss or whoever it is a question quickly. without having to send it through email and everything else. Or be able to share their screen with the boss to say, hey, I'm trying to do this, how do I do this? We don't need all the collaboration stuff. We're really not doing any of that. The other thing, real quick, is governance. I completely agree with the governance people. We pushed Office 365 out. We were challenged by our boss to get it out in 90 days. So we basically turned everything on, got it all out there, and then realized we have no governance whatsoever in place. And it was a disaster. We have group names, we have 5,000 SharePoint sites that nobody ever uses, and it's out of control. So that's one of the problems with turning it on without having the governance. Once you get the governance and all your framework in place, turn it on, let people innovate. But make sure you're there before you turn it on.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you, Daniel.
Next question.
So I come at this from having worked with Microsoft products for years, and it seems to me that having to have the conversation about which is turn it all on, turn it all off, comes down to what does Microsoft enable. And so they're starting to have granular controls that let you have like a core group who could start with something, but it's always an afterthought for them. Like their model is always the same. The third time is pretty good. 1 and 2 pretty much suck. And so it's the norm of the process. And so their propaganda machine and marketing machine, I mean, I use their products and I like them, but most of their products aren't ready to be turned on for a whole organization until after it's gone through some cycles where they enable a governance model.
It's a lot of beta test.
I agree. Next question. No, I will say, and we've turned off the recording, right? Is that Microsoft's a business. They're in it to make money.
What?
And I'm sorry, they're a publicly traded company. They're there for their shareholders, right? But we all use their products. That's why you're here. I love their products. I love what they're trying to do. But yes, they're not perfect. And rolling out technology that is just it's missing pieces. Well, that's what's going to be it's going to be that way from now on, right? And we're in the cloud now. We're innovating so quickly. They're not going to cover every scenario. So it is so true.
Thanks, Daniel.
Hi, I work for an ancient university, so we invented steam engine and television, which I'm sure you Americans are very appreciative of. We've got about 30,000 millennials, so I want to know if I turn on everything, including Flow, if the Yes team are going to pay for my Flow bill.
Oh, yes. And that Flow bill will be quite large, actually.
No, well, it depends on your licensing plan that you have, but you'll have your users are automatically on Flow, will be given an amount of runs, and then it will stop at that point, unless you've chosen to allow them to go beyond that.
No, it won't.
Yeah, it does.
No, it won't.
It doesn't just bill you.
No, it won't.
It'll stop.
So yes.
Let's verify that fact.
Let's understand. No, I agree with you to a certain degree. And that they've agreed with a lot of people on random topics that don't even match what they're supposed to be arguing for.
It's a discussion. Keep going.
So when you switch things on, naturally you spin up an Office 365 and it's on anyway, right? You want to use Teams and you want to schedule a meeting, you need Exchange mailboxes to be enabled to do that. So because it's the glue, the underlying glue for everything, you start taking pieces away. Flow is an isolated example, and like Steve said, yes, it will stop unless you decide to have an open credit card. And a lot of times if you don't have the governance, which is for us to switch on, right? Switch it on with governance. That doesn't mean that you don't switch it on, so that you know that. All right. So governance, transition management, change management, and training, and all the planning behind it before you actually go and subscribe to the portal.
Thank you, Al.
That's what you need.
Next question I think we have.
One of the biggest...
That's the fourth time, Dad.
Okay, stop.
One of the biggest I'm seeing is that there needs to be a trusted relationship between the IT department and the business units. And until that happens, there's always going to be the debate of whether proper governance is in place or anything like that. And if you don't make the decision and get IT and business to talk to each other before they turn something on, or even if they find out if it's available or not, there's always going to be that disconnect of what we should do.
And I think there's always a danger as well there for, you're basically all trying to think of, is there a possible reason why I shouldn't turn this on? So it tends to become quite a negative thing. And people can fixated on the lowest common denominator, or what will the worst person in the organisation feel? It's generally not like that. There's generally more people who have better skills than you kind of discover. Just as well, I also just Googled it. What happens if my usage exceeds the limits on flow? Flow will throttle your runs. It doesn't start costing you.
All right. So we'll go over to Phil there at the side.
A lot of great points. I think everybody's right and everybody's wrong at the same time. But I also say that, do your due diligence, know what you've got. You've alluded around the fact that IT departments don't know what they've got in 365. They're not keeping up with it. It is too much. There is too many things going on. There isn't enough governance. They're right. Basically, these apps come out. They're minimal viable products. They don't do everything everybody wants. And the governance model comes afterwards. And more you see more options, more changes in the tenants, and how you can get to this thing. You need a whole staff just to continually monitor and audit these things. Users, you've got a whole range of users out there. You're not thinking, oh, my users don't understand this. Maybe the majority of them don't, but you're going to find those power users who are just going to want to do this stuff. I agree with Daniel in terms of you need an awareness around 365. You need that portal where you've got the information and you can sell it and you say, we have this capability. Are you interested in this? Right? Because if they don't know what they have, they will go outside. If you lock everything down completely, they will go outside. You make life difficult for them, they will go outside. I've seen it, I don't know how many times.
Yeah, we keep talking about governance, and governance is great when it's applied to, internal types of things, but where's your governance for if you turn off things, what are they going to use outside of your organization? And create that black hole of many IT departments don't even realize that they have upwards of hundreds and hundreds of, out-of-the-box solutions that people are using that they have no control over.
That's a good point, Liz, and I agree.
Thank you.
In that there's a balance, and to the point before about the business and IT not necessarily talking to each other, and governance taking forever, if at all. One of the challenges is they actually, to Liz's point, is we know of shadow IT. People will go outside of IT if they can't make it work. The other thing is people will go outside of IT just because of what they know. They don't know they've got forms because they haven't been educated, so they just go, well, I used SurveyMonkey at the last job, I'll go use SurveyMonkey. So one of the things that I try and do with my clients is actually educate them, saying, hey, I get that you want to turn this tool off as part of your governance, but if you do, and for too long, people are going to go outside, and that's actually going to be worse than if they do this. But conversely, if things are turned on, I had the privilege of having access to Microsoft Planner when it was called Project Highland. It was a very early preview. And I created a planner called My Work. Now, does anybody know what happens when you create a planner? Creates a group. It's a group. Yeah. And back then, we didn't have public or private groups. So everybody saw My Work. And nobody could access My Work. And it was very confusing. And it resulted in more calls to service desk. So that's why these kind of things that you have to be mindful of. It's like, yes, do it, but kind of pull the reins in. And I'm shortening my point because Daryl's got to go.
Yeah, I've got time for one more question. Or comment.
I think, from my point of view, in the end, the workforce will decide how much they can cope with, how much of the new functionalities and everything they want to adopt, they want to use, and things like this. It's a learning process, it's a change process, and you will have a diverse workforce in most of the companies anyway, meaning you have old people who does the same thing for 40 years. You will never be able to move them to 365. You will have the young generation who are really eager to use all the things and collaborate, just to work completely different like most of us are used to. Anyway, so in the end, from my point of view, the workforce will decide what should be turned on and what is actually being used.
That's a great point, and I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned is that it not only does it kind of depend, but globally or around the whole environment of Office 365, but it also depends for each organization and the makeup and what is the history and how their leadership is going. And another thing that I wanted to throw out there, and it seems like maybe I'm the last comment, is that one thing we have not mentioned is regulation. And for those organizations that are in heavy regulated environments, turning everything on is simply not possible. And it is something that you have to pay attention to.
last response from this side.
So thank you, Daniel, for...
No, don't.
Mitchell.
So fresh and unique.
Go, you're using second.
No, I'm done. Thank you, we won.
Incorrect.
Okay, no, but I can wrap this up here, and I think Lorian sort of whispered in my ear as we come over. As a group here, like, we have taken sides to try and get the discussion going, and we have got the discussion going, and I can see people getting up and really talking about it. And that's the point. We all actually agree, and most of our debates end with "it depends." Because it is a conversation, like most of you have said. You've got to discuss. It's actually different for each of your organisations. Some of you have the luxury of maybe being able to turn it on. Others of you come from industries where there's regulations that prevent that kind of approach. So we have to talk about it. We have to form governance, but we also have to rethink how we do support. And we have to rethink how we engage the business. So look, thanks for coming along. It's been a good discussion. We have recorded it here in other different ways as well, so we're going to post it on our channel. And we do welcome you to come up and talk to any of us about this sort of thing. If you're a Twitter person too, just add RE365 as the hashtag and throw us some questions. But thanks very much, guys. Big group hug. Huh?
I love you.
You're going to turn it on.
That's a good discussion, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
It's so true. It really does depend. You can't.
Have to have your jacket. All right. So, David, good to meet you. David Johnson. Yeah, okay. So we've just been at the regarding 365 debate. The topic was, should we turn it all on in Office 365 or Microsoft 365 now? So you have some unique perspectives too within Microsoft?
Well, within Microsoft, obviously, we're in an interesting situation because we're trying to try our own technology first. So we've got the internal pressures of, well, how do we dog food and basically we ring fence things. We say, okay, let's roll this out to a part of a company that is going to be more tolerant. Let's not roll that out to the parts that maybe aren't as tolerant. And that's how we kind of start to think about governance first and foremost, about new technology rollout. But then you think about the security implications and a lot of the governance and security of how do you manage sprawl, how do you manage and protect. Those are all things we think about. But also, some of it is, what do you need to do on day one versus what do you need to do within the next few months going? If you're creating new teams is not initially a problem, as long as within 6 months or so you've got a process to do governance, because you want to make sure you've got the controls in place to retire and prevent sprawl. On day one, though, opening teams up might be perfectly acceptable because you say, you know what, I want to enable my employees to try this thing out, but I know that if I don't keep using it, I'm going to get rid of it. But I also go back to say, classifier stuff, especially for new labeling, that's how the suite is going to help understand and protect, and your employees can understand and protect. Labeling for us has been a big deal internally for a long time too, so that's one of our big ways of governing.
Right, so is there a way that we can turn it all on, but in a controlled way? So allowing people to discover and try things out, but still have a way of seeing and testing how this is going to work within our organization so we can help form governance around those first experiences.
Well, yeah, and I think part of it is find those power users, those champions to say, where are people going to be more comfortable? Where can I effectively ring fence those people and say I'm going to license for some, but not all in day one?
Awesome. Right. Thanks, David. It's great to get a comment from you. Good stuff.
How are you ring?